Отже, давайте починати.
So let's start. Hi everyone, my name is Valeria Rybak. I'm head of Human Rights Spectre NGO. We will be here together for 3.5 hours. I will be a moderator and I will also present the experience of my organization. We will speak about different interesting things today, and our today's conference is psychological and legal aid to victims of war in Ukraine and modern challenges. Today we have a lot of participants from different cities, even different countries. So I'm happy to see everybody on the screen, and if you join us, please turn off your microphones so we could hear each other well without any technical issues. So this event is very special for me. I was waiting for it for a long time. And the main thing is that it's about everything which was happening last year. And if we say that it was a difficult year, it would be very underestimated. We had to live through a lot of different events and experience a lot of feelings connected to it. And in reality, we will have to survive through a lot of things in the future because we are getting to our victory. But it's very important what we are doing and who is next to us and what we can foresee and what conclusions we can make to act efficiently in the future. So the idea of today's event came to us a long time ago. It was in the time when we were working and changing our working activity after 24th of February last year, and started providing legal and psychological aid to victims of the war. And it was a very fast span with a lot of barriers. And when you are always in this movement, sometimes you don't have time to stop and look around, see who's next to you, and to understand who is doing what challenges we have all together and what we can do together. So for us, it was very important to see this community. And therefore, we could help our clients better. So today, we decided to conduct such an event about legal aid, and tomorrow we will have a second part about psychological aid, because these are the two main challenges that we had in our activity. And I know that a lot of you had the same. So I welcome you to get to know each other. And this event is for us to find out more about each other's work and to form partnerships and to continue this work in this and next upcoming years. I hope that we will win very soon, but before and even after our victory, we will need to work on many issues that we are also working on now. So I welcome you to introduce yourself in the chat. We have a lot of activities today. One of them is polls, questionnaires, because we want to use the most opportunities to communicate. So we will use different tools for that. So now you can see a poll at your screen. And the question is, what community do you represent? Is it public sector or NGO sector? So yes, there was some technical issue with the microphones. So Lera just asked to turn them off. Basically, the question is, what do you represent, public sector or non-governmental sector? While you are giving your votes, I will say a bit about technical moments. We are recording our event. We understand that not everybody who wanted could join us because of interruptions in connection in Ukraine. So we have broadcasting in YouTube, and also we have translation so you can hear everything in the language which is more comfortable for you. It's either Ukrainian or English. And I hope that today we have participants from different countries because we had people registering from different countries. Please introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us where you are now, what city you live in, what organization do you represent. So welcome. And I can see that most of the participants already voted in the poll, and you can see that today we have both representatives from public sector and from non-governmental. And it's very important because today we will also talk about collaborations, and this collaboration can exist on different levels between non-governmental organizations and also between public sector and NGOs. As practice shows, everybody is doing the most they can at their places, and we want to coordinate our actions. So now we have a lot of participants from non-governmental sector. Please tell us what organization do you represent in the chat so we could know you better. And also, if you represent public sector, please share with us what organ do you represent, because such collaboration is very important for us. So let's proceed. Today we have, if we speak about different communities and also international community, I would like to say that this event and a lot of activities are supported by different donors, different countries. For example, we collaborate in the framework of the project Psychological and Legal Aid for Overcoming Challenges After the War in Ukraine with the European Union. And with their support today, we have this event. We are very grateful for that. And we are very thankful to the partners who, in general, support Ukraine in these hard times. Today, we have different speakers. We will work until 1:30 Ukrainian time. After each presentation, after each block, we will have 3 of them today. It will be about Ukrainian experience, foreign experience, and intersectional cooperation between different helping professions. So after each block, you can ask questions. You can write them in the chat and I will speak them out. If you have any questions while the presentation is going, please also write them in the chat, so we will collect them afterwards and give them to our speakers. So another technical moment is if we have spare time, we will try to work in small groups. So we will have more opportunities to communicate with each other, share our experience, and find out who is doing what. So because we want our event to have also practical results. So we will try to create some recommendations and conclusions for the future. And I will also tell you more in detail about this format when it comes to it. So I want to propose you before the presentation to think about what does it mean for you, legal help while the war? What does it mean to you? And you can share your thoughts in the poll as well. She's using Mentimeter. It's an interesting tool for trainers and for group communication. So we will put it on our screen and we will see who has what kind of thoughts. So she sent the link in the chat. Can you see it? please copy it. And for example, if you are working from a laptop, you can directly go there and write there what it means to you now. So the question is again, legal aid in times of war in Ukraine, what associations you have with it? If you are here with your phone, you can also scan the QR code and vote via the link. So let's try to do this. In reality, when we talk about a certain phenomenon, everybody usually has very different thoughts on it. So we are curious to find out. I hope we managed to do it. If somebody is joining us, please turn off your microphones. Okay, now I see the results coming. I'm encouraging you to put your thoughts so we can see them later. I will try to share my screen now. Now, can you see it? So we have lots of thoughts. For example, legal services, safety, legality, justice, health, quick solving of the issues, new remote services, a lot of different questions. Sometimes when I think about my association, it is stability, which is provided by legal aid. So that's exactly why in our organization we started working from both sides and providing legal and psychological aid, because for us it is something very interconnected. And in reality, we are speaking about a certain structure, about legality, about the fact that it's support and it's legal services. It means for some people that some processes are solving more quickly. And for some people, it is an opportunity to make certain services more accessible. And after 24th of February, when we realized that the circumstances are changing very quickly and more people need help, and these people come with different questions and issues, and we decided to concentrate on the thing that we can be the most efficient in with our team, our resources, our knowledge. We consulted with our colleagues who could use our help the most, and with our partners, with Fight for Rights, who organized evacuation of the people, people with disabilities. So we talked about the thing that people with disabilities are facing even more problems right now, because our state unfortunately hasn't cared enough to make the spaces accessible for people with disabilities. So now they have to overcome even more challenges than many other people. And two moments that were not covered back then is the legal and psychological aid for people who were evacuating, for those who went abroad, for those who decided to stay in Ukraine. So we organized such a working group with psychologists and legal professionals to support these two directions. It is important to say that we have built a certain system of our work. It is the receipt of calls on different lines and in different platforms, because we have the possibility to apply for help on different platforms. And the operator receives an application, and then we individually decide what kind of help we can provide. So if we are talking about legal aid, it's mainly consultations, usually in text. And if there's a need, the lawyer is contacting the person personally via phone and explain certain moments. And also we provide a lot of informational consultations, because a lot of people just want to know where they can apply to solve some issues, for example, to public institutions, to local administrations, to different organs which provide state-related services. And we also think that it's important to establish this cooperation between local governmental bodies and NGOs in order to help people more efficiently. And the information about our hotline was disseminated quite a lot. And sometimes people were finding more information about our hotline and other organizations' help than from public institutions. And it's a question to about who has to carry these functions, NGOs or public institutions. And also we organized support to our specialists as well in psychological direction. Also, we didn't stop on consultations. We usually conduct educational activities for our NGO, and in these circumstances, we were conducting webinars, meetings for specialists and for beneficiaries or potential beneficiaries of the hotline. Also, we made a lot of infographics, different informational materials in order to cover this field. Also, in this part, I will not speak alone. I'm finishing my first introductional block, and I will give the word to Lilia Olinik, to a lawyer of the hotline of our organization. And I will ask Lilia to tell us about those questions that our clients most often asked us, and what was maybe a challenge for you in your professional activity, because today in this part we're talking about online activities and about possible perspectives. So if you want to show presentation, please let me know. Thank you, Valeria. Hello, everyone. I'm happy to see those whom I know. And I'm expecting to also interact and get to know those whom I don't know. So as for your question, I have prepared a small presentation and answer to the question that you asked about the request that we're getting the most. I tried to structurize this and reflect it in the presentation. Maybe I can share it on my own, or I need to ask you to do that. So yes, there are some technical processes happening in the background, so we will just wait for a minute until the presentation comes up. While we are still solving technical issues, I will reflect on your phrase about, or a question maybe, about how legal aid or by whom it should be provided. I think we will find the answer to this question in the third block of our day, the interaction and cooperation part, and interinstitutional cooperation between public sector and non-governmental sector. Preparing for our conference today, First of all, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to share this experience and to analyze the experience which I received since the beginning of full-scale invasion, because we had to reorient our professional activity. And maybe it's a broader question about our own values. I often repeat the phrase, law is us, first to myself and then to my clients. And this phrase is about our society. And at some point it was actualized, and understanding that the experience that I have has to be used in order to help Ukrainians unite. And in this context, the legal aid is quite a broad definition. It's about mutual help, about absence of borders in some way. I see that my presentation is not fully presented on the screen for some reason. Can we please minimize? Yes, perfect. Thank you. And preparing for this day and analyzing this experience, I was trying to extract the universal tendencies of work in the legal field, provision of legal aid, and interaction with non-governmental organizations, for example, human rights sector, and legal aid to people with disabilities, and about interactions in the organization Eurofem. And maybe I'm wrong, but I extracted some universal tendencies, which can be called principles. It's flexibility and adaptability, constant evaluation of tendencies, changes, and reality. And in reality, the turbulence and the speed of the changes in the world is insane. And now it's a requirement to keep up with our level of qualification. Also, a system approach and focus on security and safety of our clients. So about forms of work, how they changed, how the practices changed for lawyers. And if before the full-scale invasion, it was mostly direct communication with clients, now it mostly happens remotely, and they became more broad. And the direct communication is combined with communication via operators, if we are talking about online aid, and via third persons, when a person couldn't apply personally due to different reasons. We can speak about online communication in this regard, about communication in messengers, and about communication offline. So also it is about, as Valeria already said, about written consultations next to verbal ones. And also it's very important to mention educational work, because very often the requests were connected not to obtaining certain concrete information, but to double check information which people received from other sources. So let's go to the next slide. If we are speaking about in my experience of work in the team of Hotline by Human Rights Vector, about providing legal aid to people with disabilities, what were we focusing on? First of all, we care about physical and psychological safety and security of our beneficiaries. we were focusing a lot on the identification of the request and the needs as much as we could, and on provision of explanations of possible options of further actions or legal aspects, and to provide people some variants on how they could act. In this context, we were working a lot on explaining how to act when a person needs legal aid, when and why people could apply for this kind of help. And we can speak also about some procedural or document keeping aspects. We were talking a lot about developing a request in legal field and why it is important. Also about specifics of interaction between clients and lawyers in connection with war, because this general background of the war and stress in the society is influencing ways of communication as well. I was trying to group the requests that we received from our clients. They were changing depending on when the people were applying. I joined the team of Human Rights Vector in May 2023, and in that time there were a lot of requests connected to evacuation and crossing the border, directly with the procedure of crossing of the border. So there was somebody with an unmuted mic. So the question of evacuation and crossing the border was also accompanied by questions about obtaining certain legal status. For example, internally displaced person, if it's within the borders of Ukraine, or temporary protection if the person went abroad. There were a lot of requests and questions about legal status in Poland, in Netherlands, and Italy, different countries, because people came there with in different circumstances, in different conditions. And the legislation of different countries is something that not everybody of us knew perfectly. So it was connected to coordination and communication with international colleagues and providing the utmost clear information to our clients. Also, another block of questions and requests is the question about obtaining disability status, and the block of questions about restoring documents, keeping the deadlines and territorial aspects. Another block of requests was the taking care of people with disabilities. And we were paying attention to the requests about possible facts of discrimination based on the health condition or disability. There were separate questions about right for privacy. And another block was about a request from militants, from army men. It was questions about enrolling into army, mobilization, drafting, and right for medical help, different questions, and rights of military servicemen were really pressing back in May 2023, and they remain this way until now. Next slide, please. Who was applying to us? Who were our clients? These are people with disability in a broad sense. these are not only the people who had already disability status, it was a much broader spectrum of people. And we realized that our work will be the most useful and efficient if we will understand this definition in a broad way, in a broad sense. And we didn't request any documents about disability status. So the categories that were applying to us, it's children and their representatives. We were working a lot with children's rights. Also internally displaced people, servicemen, and families of servicemen, seniors, and other people. Probably that's it for now. I tried to also enhance my presentation with some artsy things that now we have a lot in the internet. And now it's very popular direction of art. So thank you for now, and I hope I answered your question, Valeria, about the category of persons who apply to us and the categories of requests. Lilia, thank you a lot for your work and your presentation. It's quite difficult to cover everything in a couple of minutes, but I think we understood the big main picture. And today we will speak with different specialists from other initiatives, and we'll be able to broaden this picture and to look at it in a broader spectrum and understand who receives legal aid in Ukraine and in what formats, from what organizations and organs. And again, we have different speakers from public and non-governmental sector. And it's very important to look at the target audiences as well. I want to say that in the line of our work in preparation for this conference, we conducted a questionnaire about what aid you provide online, with what target audiences you work, what challenges you face. And this publication was prepared in order to make a list of initiatives which work in Ukraine, in order to give the clients possibility to find necessary initiative, and in order to interconnect the initiatives and create partnerships. We will present it later in the beginning of March, but now I can share with you some moments that we have seen in it while in time of our event, and it will be a good addition to the talks with our speakers. So in between our target audiences in different initiatives, there were mainly internally displaced people without connection to other identifications, characteristics, let's say, and also families of servicemen and people who suffer directly from the war. So these were people who applied mostly to all hotlines. And our next speaker is Natalia Marchuk. Today, she will tell us about the United Hotline and provision of free legal aid, which is the state run and receives a lot of different requests. So it will be very interesting to hear about your work, what kind of questions your clients have, what is the change in the picture from previous periods, because this hotline has been working for a long time. And what perspectives you have, what challenges, what questions you have faced and are facing now. So please, Natalia, I will turn on your presentation.
Thank
you once again, Valeria. I want to thank to all the organizers for inviting me and for organizing this kind of event, because for me it's very interesting and to find out about the experience of other organizations in the field of legal aid and psychological aid. And I always value an opportunity when we can share our own experience. Of course, the beginning of war influenced all the spheres of our life, and on the work of system of legal aid, our hotline became, in the first months of war, one of the main and very convenient way of receipt of legal aid for Ukrainian citizens. And today I decided to share and to speak a bit about this hotline, how we organized its work, a little bit about statistical data, and of course, counting and perspective to establish communication and collaboration with other initiatives of this kind. I will ask to move to next slide. So the number of hotline started working in 2015. It happened along with establishment of our local centers of legal aid to citizens of Ukraine. Before 24th of February, we had constantly 20 consultants on the hotline who were receiving calls. And after 24th of February, from the first days of war, we had an increase in requests for legal aid, and people were interested in so many different questions. Some part of hotlines, like profile hotlines from executive branch organs, were not working, some were working. So that's why we got a big influx in requests, and we could reorient and join more consultants to our hotline. So now we have lawyers from local legal centers. They're practitioners. They are combining work in local centers and in courts, and provide direct legal aid. And another tool is the phone consultations, phone legal consultations, which are free for the citizens. So our hotline is always undergoing some changes, transformations. We're trying to improve constantly. In the beginning of its creation, it was mainly receiving phone requests and notifications about arrests. But maybe you know that one of the main tasks of the free legal aid centers are provision of free help to arrested and convicted, free of charge. And in the process, we realized that there is a big demand from the community for use of such convenient tools as a hotline, and consequently, our operators have broadened the list of services they provide. So now our main functions is provision of legal information, consultations, and explanations on legal questions via the hotline number. Also, we receive notifications about arrests, and these phone calls are also coming to the pool of other operators, so workers of regional centers, who are also working on such and fixating such notifications, and give them over to attorneys. Also, consultants provide different explanations to state institutions, provide information about possibilities to receive legal aid locally. And after the beginning of the war, we also established the mechanisms which allow receiving, registering, and referring the requests for local legal aid. We also are fixating complaints and recommendations from the clients about the work of local governmental services. Also, sometimes we provide holistic aid, and when we need to have a look at the documents that a person has, and it's almost impossible to do via phone. So for these cases, we have a system of fixation of such requests, and automatically this information is referred to a local legal aid center. And there are some specialists who already take over this communication with such person, and while in the process of this communication, they find out the details and agree about convenient time and place where the lawyer and the client can meet offline and to see all the materials, documents which this person has and which is needed for provision of holistic legal aid. And let's speak shortly about statistical data that we have. As you can see, the number of requests to the contact center is growing year by year. If we are talking about last year, it's more than 300,000 applications. And most of them is the questions about legal consultations and clarifications. And since 2015, we have had more than 2.5 million of phone calls. Top questions are changing all the time, depending on the situation. We were monitoring first time after the beginning of full-scale invasion, we could see that the requests are changing, the tendencies are changing. It was connected with informational campaigns and in general development of methodical materials. And if we talk about the whole year, the most popular questions are about receiving compensations and state aid. A lot of requests about crossing the border and list of documents which are necessary for crossing the border. Also very popular questions about mobilization and army service. Lately, a lot of, in the last couple of months, a lot of people are asking questions about mobilization and drafting, what the kind of responsibility they will have if they don't come, if they receive a letter of drafting. And a lot of people also are interested about different civil legislation, developing agreements, etc. So yeah, and based on this, we have this kind of statistics right now. And I hope that colleagues who have experience in conducting hotlines of such kind can share maybe their own information. And we cannot know everything, even as lawyers, and we need resources that we can use to find information quickly. So I would like to share experience of using certain sources that our consultants are using. It's a database, Wiki Legal Aid. Our consultants are using it a lot, and it is very popular among the citizens of Ukraine. On 2023, there were 2,245 views. We are adding information after a certain request, if it's something new, if that's a precedent. And we are always checking the actuality of legislation. And so it's one of very trustworthy sources of information for legal specialists and also clients. After the beginning of the war, when there was an influx in phone calls to our hotline, and there were a lot of questions that we need to study the legislation for to answer, and we needed to do it very quickly. So we created a tool for our consultants. We call it a knowledge database. It's our internal closed resource, and we put there all the information which is connected to the most pressing legal issues which our clients are applying with our center. We started filling it up very quickly so that the new consultants who joined us after 24th of February 2022 could receive the necessary information. We also provided methodical materials, which we received from our partners. For example, Olena Bondarenko is, she has shared her knowledge in issues of people with disabilities. So it's very pleasant to see her now. So we had a lot of colleagues who shared certain algorithms, certain instructions for different categories of clients, what to do, where to go, where to apply. And it was very useful in our work, and we were using it a lot. Please, let's go to the next slide. I will speak a little bit about the learning system and capacity building of consultants. So we are forming groups which are joining the work of hotline. It is necessary before the specialist begins to work on the hotline to undergo training in the program of communication and provision of legal aid over phone. It includes self-work in remote course and also work with the trainers. And lawyers are analyzing and simulating real life situations and requests. And it happens throughout the month. And after that, the lawyers are beginning to work in the hotline. I would like to say that during the day, the specialist is working for about 2-3 hours on the hotline. It's not every day, and we are always making the individual schedules. But in the first month of the work on the hotline, it is considered to be like a training stage, and we always have accompaniment by supervisors to the new specialists and support in different technical issues, because the specialist also has to learn programs which we are using for consulting, and we help them orienting in a lot of information and how to find it quickly. And other consultants who are not on the line at the time can also help the colleagues, and maybe if they had an experience of this case or something like this. So we are always supporting each other in our work. And thanks to this, we received a good quality of our services. So at the screen, you can see the phone number on the left side, which is free to everybody who is in Ukraine. Also, after beginning of the war, we established a phone number for people who call from abroad, also for free. And now we are working without day offs. From 8 a.m. till 7 p.m. every working day. And it was also connected with the challenges and with the demand that we could see among our clients. We have improved our system of giving calls back, and also at the moment we have around 800 to 900 calls every day, which our consultants are working on. We are at the level of 99.9% of full proceeding of the call, and yes, we are aiming at solving every issue that comes in. Also, we have a lot of experience in collaborating with other hotlines. They are presented at the screen from different governmental services and NGOs. So we are hearing often from our clients that we applied to certain other hotline and we were recommended and referred to you. It is very valuable for us. And we appreciate it a lot, and we'll be happy to establish new partnerships and new work contacts with other hotlines, which maybe we are not working with yet. Thank you a lot. And if you have any questions, I will answer them with pleasure. Thank you a lot for your presentation. We have questions, and I will ask them in the end of this block. I ask you participants to write them in the chat if you have any, so we will read them out loud a bit later and answer them. And yes, this hotline is incredible because you cover a huge spectrum of different questions and the target audiences. So I'm very happy that this hotline exists and the state can provide for its qualitative help. And I would like to move to our next speaker, and it will be a transition to the state sector, public sector. So I will different lines of help were established in different time. So if we're talking about the previously spoken about initiative was established in 2015, but there are a lot of initiatives which started after 24th of February. And 59% of initiatives out of from our poll that we conducted before the conference were established after 24th of February. And a lot of these initiatives which existed before also expanded their services after the full-scale invasion. And I would like to give floor to Marta Smysla, lawyer and coordinator of Eurofem support. And they are working mostly with people who suffered suffered any kind of violence. And I understand that a lot of work was done before 24th of February and after, and now you have an opportunity to compare what kind of requests you're getting now, how has the number of them changed, what is the big picture now for you? And we would like to hear about your experience. Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to this conference, which is dedicated to providing legal aid to vulnerable categories of population. I would like to share the experience of Eurofem, our organization. So after 24th of February, in this new reality, we as an organization, which always has worked a lot with women and gender-based violence. We, in April 2022, we established Eurofem Support. It's a line which provides free psychological and legal support to victims of sexual violence and the different forms of gender discrimination. We have had an idea to create this kind of hotline for a long time because we received a lot of requests of this kind, and understanding potential risks of increase of these cases in circumstances of the war, we decided to establish this hotline. So we have a phone number where we accept requests every day. requests that are connected with sexual and gender-based violence. And we consider it in a broader sense. So it is also about harassment and mm, uh, digital harassment and different forms of gender-based violence and discrimination. So we provide direct legal aid. We have a database of lawyers and attorneys, more than 30 specialists who live and work in different regions in Ukraine and provide legal accompaniment. So when a person calls to us and requests legal accompaniment, we refer this person to our lawyers, depending on the place where this person is based. And if a person needs psychological support, we have a database of partners whom we are working with, and we refer these clients to organizations which specialize in psychological aid. So we had more than 200 requests since the beginning of our work. Mostly these were women who had requests in connection with domestic violence, sexual violence, different family disputes. Mm, so around 40% of requests are in regard to sexual violence. 10% is physical violence, and also some requests about military service, which are different issues which are not in the focus of our hotline. So mm, we are paying the services by lawyers by ourselves. So the victims and the clients are receiving these services free of charge. And the main goal of Eurofem support is not only provision of legal aid, but to uh, to conduct the strategic cases. Maybe if sometimes we see a request as not a very prospective one and the one that doesn't cannot be very successful, but we always work on them and we always find new ways of practicing our work. So we are working on developing strategic potential and helping not only one individual which is requesting help, but other people who have faced the same situation or problem, and on preparing algorithms for solution of such problems. And the challenges we faced while providing legal aid is that, unfortunately, among legal community, there are not so many lawyers who would be ready to work with cases in connection with sexual violence. And those who want to work on these topics do not always have necessary competencies to work with such sensitive category of cases. So we are trying to conduct capacity building events for our lawyers, for example, about protection and presenting interests of minors in criminal investigations. Also, our organization has launched the Academy of Human Rights Defenders. We have already had 7 modules for attorneys, and they were connected with different aspects of protection of rights of victims of gender-based violence, to help them understand better the specifics of such cases. And we are trying to teach and also build the capacity of lawyers who joined our organization. And another challenge we have is that our national legislation has gaps in regard to investigation of sexual violence cases. It is connected with a low rate of requests because of the taboo and stigma that exists in our society, unfortunately, around this topic, because the victims are not always ready to report the experience of violence immediately after it happened. We have requests when For example, people requested help 5 or 10 years after the incident happened. It also happened with minors, and when they referred to their parents, they did not receive necessary support or help. For example, we had situation when the parents didn't want to press charges because they didn't believe it could lead to justice. So we also need to conduct informational campaigns about sexual and gender-based violence and how to protect yourself, what algorithms there are for receiving help. So to increase understanding and increase uh, increase awareness in this topic in our society, to make people less afraid and to avoid the stigma for them when they apply for help. So there are also challenges which are connected with investigation, collection of evidence in the criminal cases connected to sexual violence. For example, we have cases for harassment in public transport, and the police qualifies such actions as not a sexual abuse, uh, but hooliganism, mischief. So there's a problem in qualification of such incidents. We also have problems in qualification of consent, which comes to the fact that when there was the physical evidence is lacking, it's not considered an evidence for sexual abuse case. And our lawyers, which accompany cases in raping or harassment, are facing troubles and have to appeal to some decisions of the courts. There, there is a problem also in not a problem, but a challenge in communication between lawyers and victims of sexual abuse. And there is sometimes lack of understanding of what questions we have and don't have to ask in order to minimize traumatization and following the principle of no harm. And also the police and courts and lawyers have to understand gender sensitive communication, and the lawyer which accompanies a certain case on sexual abuse has to understand these aspects. And we are also working with sexual abuse as a war crime, and we are also facing lots of problems in identification of such cases and communication with victims. So as to me, now the non-governmental and public sector have to work together and provide complex aid to victims of sexual abuse connected to the conflict as a war crime, and also to victims of sexual abuse which is happening outside of the front line and war setting. So we need to work holistically on the topic of sexual abuse in a broader way and to provide complex aid, both legal, psychological, and medical to the victims of such abuse. And it will be in line of interests of our clients, and people will apply and request help and will receive qualified aid. So these are the main aspects of our professional activity and the challenges in line of Eurofem support, and I will answer any questions which will be directed to me. Thank you. Thank you, Marta. It's a very challenging, sensitive topic, and thank you for working on it. I think we need to speak about it both in war and peaceful time, but of course now we understand that this problem becomes even more complex, and it's great that there is an opportunity to apply for such sort of help. Please, if you have any questions to Marta, put them in the chat, and we will move over to the next block and ask the questions after the end of this block. So now it's important to help to different target audiences. And the one of the main target audiences now are families of servicemen. And from our experience, there is an increase in such requests. That's why I would like to hear experience of uh, from Julia Mori, who is a director of NGO which is working with providing legal help to servicemen. And I know that a lot of organizations know Julia's organization as one that is professional in this field and are referring their clients among the servicemen to them. So please share your experience and tell us how your work has changed over the years, because I know that the organization was established a long time ago. And I know that some of my acquaintances, lawyers who are now at war, used to work in the organization before. So now we are really curious to hear this information, both for as clients, as potential clients, and as people who help such target audiences. So the floor goes to you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be in circle of like-minded people and colleagues who are doing very important work. Thank you, Lilia, Marta, and Natalia. The structures and organizations which we are also counting on and refer our clients a lot. So we are happy that Eurofem is also working not only with in informational and awareness raising activity, but also providing direct legal and psychological aid, because we often get requests from victims of gender-based violence, and we know that we can refer them to your organization. So thank you for what you're doing. I have also prepared a small presentation in general about our organization. Let's share it. Yes, and I will also comment. Okay, yeah, that was just some technical pause. So in general, our organization exists since 2014. We established our organization in 2000 in response of the threat of invasion from Russian Federation in 2014, in order to help families of servicemen who died and the colleagues who went to fight. So now our mission is protection of human rights in context of military service and creation of legal mechanisms of reintegration of veterans. And if we are talking about last year, the preparation for full-scale invasion, we really were preparing for it. And we had an internal mobilization plan of the organization. We have grown a lot in last year, and precisely I will show in numbers. For example, now we have 15 operators at the hotline, and in the last year it was 5, so it grew 3 times. Also, I can say that right now, in the last week, we had a big increase in requests. I don't know, colleagues, maybe you have it somewhat similar, but for us, yes, it also was raised by at least 30%. And we are trying to provide help to all the people who refer to us. Also, we have 5 lawyers analytics in our team, which I will talk about a bit later. And also people who help to create the products, the webinars, and different brochures and different informational materials. So we have roughly 10 people who work on this direction. And we have almost 100 lawyers volunteers. And this community was established in between 2014 and 2016. We kept in touch with them, and it was activized last year. So we are helping to servicemen, veterans, and family members of servicemen who died in the war. And anyone who is interested in any questions in regard to military service can apply to us. The guarantees to veterans, the drafting procedures, we often have applications from other lawyers, from governmental professionals who work with army and military men. So yes, we have a lot of applications from not only from direct clients, but also from colleagues. Our main audience is servicemen, but in our field, we are also trying to support other categories of beneficiaries. The main three directions of our work is legal aid, is analytics and advocacy and information. I will speak a bit more about each of them. The main tool of our work is hotline, and a lot of aspects that my colleagues were talking about before are also true for us. Our hotline works since 2015, and when we were preparing for the full-scale invasion, the key task for us was to make every specialist of our organization to participate in the hotline. It was our priority, and it became a priority in February 2022. And since the first day of full-scale invasion, we started working because we understood that the number of requests and questions, which was happening because of drafting, mobilization, a state of emergency, and not a lot of organizations will be ready to consult such requests professionally, so we had to be ready. So it was our first priority to prepare for this and to make sure that our specialists are safe, but also to start working immediately when the demand becomes true. And in the first month, we were preparing, but we're not really ready for the scope of requests. And we immediately got help from our former employees, from our colleagues, from volunteers who were ready to help us and to share their experience, to connect to our hotline. So a lot of people not from our main team joined the hotline because they realized that they have relevant knowledge and experience in this field. So first couple of months, we didn't change our qualification. We were working in the field of military related issues, legal issues, but we had to react to other requests which we couldn't ignore, especially in March. So our line was also undertaking the role of coordination between organizations who provided certain help and other clients who needed other kinds of help. I mean, not legal aid. And sometimes people were calling to us and informing us about the moving of Russian military techniques and personnel. So we were also referring this information to relevant services. And sometimes we couldn't provide direct help, but we always received all the requests, and we were working 24/7, monitoring the activity all the time. So only in the end of April, we stopped working 24/7 because the number of requests decreased a little bit. so there were not so many urgent questions anymore. We switched to the mode of work without weekends and days off, but we established working hours. And now, right now, we had an increase in activity of night phone calls. So we do not see the necessity to switch to 24/7 work regime yet, but it's an interesting tendency. I think it's because now the mobilization procedures have activized again. Uh, what we need for hotline is internet and electricity. Our consultants are working remotely. It doesn't matter where they are. Maybe they can be in Ukraine, abroad in different cities, but our center depends on electricity and internet. And when in October the power cutoffs began, we were really dependent on this, and it was a big challenge for us. Around January, we got back on track fully, and now we are autonomous and we do not depend so much on the centralized electricity. But we, yes, we opened an opportunity to provide written consultations in order to help people who couldn't contact us via phone in our social media. And the in the resources that people already knew, we didn't create any new pages. We used our current pages on Facebook, Instagram. We were providing this written consultations in on these platforms. And currently, we also continue providing written consultations along with the phone ones. And in January, we have received them even more than calls, which is an interesting fact for us, because we never had written consultations as our priority, but now they are more and more. We are also helping with forming documents. And now at our website, we have like different templates of different documents for certain applications to the government, to some agreements, something like this. So we have templates for lots of legal documents. And usually when people are applying to us for help with developing documents, we just refer them to the website, and usually it helps them and it's enough. But also, if necessary, we help them individually in forming these documents. Secondary legal aid, it was a difficult issue for us, but we anyway restored this line. We started from volunteers who were taking over the cases and working on them. But in reality, the number of requests is much bigger than the volunteers we have. So we stopped providing such aid, but now we see that the demand is growing again, and we restored this line of work. And we work in a format that when a person is applying to us with a case, we are reviewing the case, assigning a lawyer, and we as an organization pay to the lawyer for legal accompaniment. It's quite difficult because financially it's a lot, and the number of requests is big. But we have to choose and pick the cases, unfortunately, in our criteria, because, for example, people who fall in the category of secondary legal aid from the state, we refer them to the state. And if the person doesn't have this right, then we take this case over and help them with legal accompaniment. So the number which is mentioned in the first line is the free hotline number. From 2014, we had more than 114,000 calls, and in only from last year, we had 27,000, more than 27,000 calls. So it increased by a lot. So our direction of work, analytics and advocacy, it continues working. Our legal aid is our priority, but we also continue analytics and advocacy line. The biggest challenge of last year and now is that due to the number of decisions made, a number of changes in legislation, we just find it, and due to number of people who work with us, we cannot really keep up with this scope and to work on every issue, but we continue our work. And we are tracking the decisions, all the decisions made in the sphere of legislation connected with military and veterans. If you are interested in these issues, we are also doing a mailing list every week about changes in legislation in regard to military. And we are analyzing laws and bills which are about to be adopted, and also communicate about the decisions made. This is the main aspect of analytics and advocacy. Our talk today is more about hotlines. So yeah, our next very important direction is informing of veterans, servicemen, their relatives. We are preparing different news, webinars, short explainers about different legal aspects of military service. And our mailing list also helps in that. We are also disseminating this, let's say, send out in a printed version. And we also develop different brochures that we post on our website and also periodically print and disseminate. We also publish news in our social media, in email and website. We also conduct webinars every week. And also, upon request, we conduct trainings. It is not our main direction of work, but upon request, we can conduct this. And we were conducting training for a local center of legal aid and for different servicemen, different, let's say, veteran protection organizations. So, yes. We also have a bit of statistics on the slide. So we have more than 50 templates of different documents on our website. But you can find them on our website and also on our Facebook. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them. And also, we are always happy to collaborate and work together with partners. And I'm happy that there are more and more organizations which provide legal aid. Thank you. Thank you, Julia, and thank you for the work you're doing in different directions. And even in this, your speech, we could see that there's a lot of coordination between different initiatives, between public and non-governmental service sectors. And also it's about the linking clients, because everybody has their own experience and unique knowledge. So it's very important to interact and to exchange clients if necessary. So let's move on to our next block. We are moving forward as planned. I will say the questions which were in the chat. Today we have a representative of Nadino.org who is asking a question. He is asking if there is a client who has faced, let's say, scammers in internet, and how can I refer them to you? Because I consult people from the technical point of view, and I am not a lawyer, and I cannot consult you about legal protection. So yes, everything in regard to legal questions, you can refer to us. If the provision of legal consultation is not possible in the phone mode, we will use the tool that I was telling you about. So the question of a client will be recorded using our internal tools, and the person will be contacted by a lawyer of the center, and they will agree about a private meeting, and the person will be provided certain necessary legal aid.
Валерія, мікрофон. Є мікрофон, та я тим часом прошу пані Наталію не включатись, бо наступне питання теж до пані Наталії.
So the next question is also to Natalia.
Про системи безоплатної правової допомоги. Подяка вашому досвіду. Є запитання про найефективніший спосіб надання.
So the question is about the most efficient way of provision of legal information upon a certain request of the client. Verbally, is it verbally? Is it written consultation, or is it a link to your resources, Wiki Legal Aid, for example? That we combine our ways of help. I don't have a universal answer for that. And it's always individual, because when a person comes to us personally, like offline, of course, we consult them verbally, but also give links to certain information online, because maybe the person cannot remember something immediately or needs to reread the information. Because we can compare it with, for example, doctor's consultation. When a person comes to a doctor, the doctor also, apart from the verbal consultation, gives some sort of instruction in written form, so that the person can refer to it and remember if they forgot something. So yes, we can combine, and we can also provide written consultation if the answer is not very complicated, or if the question is not very complex. And so we form this little explainer and just send it via email or messenger, whatever is more comfortable for the person. Also, if the question is in regard to legal information or some algorithm of actions in certain case, if the person doesn't have any long background of court applications or communication with public institutions, then it can be also efficient to do it in a written way. Also, we always provide the links to the resources we talked about today, so that the person could read it and analyze it calmly and in their own span. So it's hard to say which one of them is the most efficient. Thank you. So in the chat, we have a lot of people who say thank you to the Center of Free Legal Aid and offers for collaboration. So you could contact these people. Yes. For example, here we have a representative of Kiev College for Tourism, and they have legal clinic, and they would like to collaborate. So now we have also a question to all speakers. You receive important information to the hotline about the needs of people. Are you communicating or interacting with local governmental bodies in order to solve these problems systematically? So I see Julia wants to answer. Thank you for your question. We are really analyzing and monitoring all the requests at least every month, but mostly internally for our work. And we are publishing tendencies in requests. And as for the collaboration with local governmental agencies, um, we were doing that before a full-scale invasion. Before that, we were fixating what the number of requests from every region. And from March, April, it lost sense because around 50% of the people did not say where they are, or they were moving constantly. So it's the specifics of servicemen that they are always moving somewhere. Or these are people who are internally displaced, for example. So we stopped providing this information. And we cannot say that we are fixating some peculiarities depending on the region. But if we see certain tendencies in demand in legal questions, and if we see that statistically people start to ask more questions about certain topic, we of course communicate with Ministry of Defense, with the Service for Protection of Veterans, with Parliament, and of course we publish the statistics. Maybe Natalia or Marta want to add something to it? Yes, from our experience, we separated certain categories of people who need, let's say, more attention from the side of the state. It's family members of those who disappeared, family members of those in captivity, mobilized servicemen, and seeing this pool of requests, we are working on the proposals of this solutions, let's say, together with the Office of Ombudsman for disappearances, and we are also conducting webinars and different educational events for these categories of persons. And also it's in regard with the institutions who work with people in captivity, servicemen in captivity. So yes, we have such experience. So these are the categories of people who need help the most. So I would like to add, every month we are analyzing the requests that we receive. We are tracking tendencies of requests and collecting statistical data for every month. And coming from this, we are developing certain directions of work. In one time, we were developing different informational brochures about tendencies of sexual abuse. And also we prepared informational brochure for service women, how to protect themselves from sexual abuse while serving in the army, because at some point we had such requests. Also, we work with Prosecutors General Office. We are communicating problems that our lawyers face while working on certain cases. We are communicating this to the state organs. and we are striving to change court practice in this way. So I see Lilia. Yes, I would like to add um, about our hotline. Next to the analysis of the requests that clients are applying with, we also have some situational reactions and, for example, webinars, which we conducted in summer together with a representative of labor and social protection department of Kiev city administration, because we had a lot of requests about social payments to IDPs. And later on, we conducted different other explanatory webinars about social help and different other questions that were pressing at the moment. So the last question, which I will ask now you and other speakers. So how long do you think your work will be necessary? And yeah, just a couple of words. I don't think it will ever end. It's not about the war, but I think it's more about the demand in our services. So I don't think we will lose the our work will lose necessity, because in last 8-10 years the questions are changing and they are transforming depending on the circumstances, but they never end really. So we are personally going to continue our work and make it even more systemized and strategic. So we are not going to stop. Thank you. I remember the research that the work of lawyers after certain decades will be done by robots, and with help of chat bots, some questions will be solved. But in reality, I think the technologies are moving towards it, but mm, nobody is undermining and will not undermine the importance of interhuman communication. And we are in helping professions. So until the humanity exists, there will be a request for our work. So we will work until we have the strength and resource. So, of course, in our plans and concept of development of our contact center is the improvement of our services. And this year we are planning to put a lot of efforts to improving quality of consultations. And we are hoping that we will be able to help at maximum capacity to everybody who needs it in these hard times for our country. I want to share some memories from the first days of the war. The first week, we had people calling from the border with children, and in such situations, like they had blocked bank accounts and they were not let out, something like this. So we had different levels of solving such issues. There were different specialists who were searching for information. There were specialists who already had some connections with representatives of other governmental bodies. So we had, when we could manage to solve even a small problem of one person, we were so happy. Our whole team, every time it was a small victory for us, and then it was more and more and more, and it became a kind of a routine. But this feeling when you understand that your work is worth something, and that there's a sense and something useful for the people, and the possibility to help and to do it as a state service, it makes me very happy. And I hope that after our victory, we will be able to help many people in other questions. a lot of calls are coming from the occupied territories. It's very difficult for them to reach us, and it's unfortunate that there are no mechanisms how to help these people right now. And I hope that after the occupation, we will be able uh, to implement this direction as well and help these people. And now we have different tools, instruments for communication with prosecutor's office, with police, with the Ministry of Defense. And maybe we cannot enter physically and work on the occupied territories, but we have mechanisms of collection of legal requests from these territories. And with the help of telephone, we are calling to these people, we consult them, we communicate with them, and we see how important it is for them to see that the state, not some individual lawyer, but the state is caring about them and is interested in their well-being and at least tries to consult. Not everything is possible, and there are a lot of issues that do not have mechanisms for their resolution, but we will work on that. Yes, thank you, and hope that uh, we will work on it. I think that the demand in Eurofem support is only growing. We see that requests are becoming more and more. And we hope that thanks to our work, we will be able to achieve results in protection of people who suffered from violence and to produce gender-sensitive approaches on the state level and to provide for putting the human interest and the rights at the first place. And we have a lot of results in our cases, and we are covering it actively and highlighting the activity of organizations. So I hope for fruitful work of our organization and collaboration with others. Thank you, our dear speakers. It's very difficult to speak briefly about the experience that we all had before and after 24th of February. And in the framework of this event, I understand we want to speak endlessly, and I thank you a lot for sharing your experience and for the possibility to collaborate all together, because the demand is growing and this work is very necessary right now and will be. So I'm happy that we can react to these requests all together. Today's war and the situation and showed that we have a very broad community, and we cannot only speak about the territory of Ukraine. We are talking about people who are in different countries and support us as a community as well. These can be Ukrainians and representatives of different countries. And we are happy that today it's a big integrational process and a big community that can be together. So today we will speak about how the aid was provided in two countries, in Poland and Bulgaria. And the first country which received Ukrainians in such quantities and Ukrainians with children is Poland, Peremysl. It's the train station and the gate, which was for many people the first place they ended up after they fled from the war, and where they could find the safe space and protection. And we will be very interested to hear how it was for you to work in such situation, how it was to interact with people who had to flee their country and who didn't understand what will happen tomorrow. So how the situation is changing now, because almost a year has passed. What kind of help do people still need, and if there's an interaction and a work with between Polish organizations and Ukrainian ones. So I'm giving a floor to Mikhailo Shachmat, I'm happy that Mikhailo is with us today because we have known each other for a long time, and Mikhailo is helping Ukraine for a long time. We have met during Maidan, and today, in these circumstances of war, Mikhailo continues to help. So, hi everyone. Valeria, thank you a lot for inviting me to this conference. And thank you for remembering about Poland and Peremyśl. As you have said, our train station in Peremyśl was the first stop for after the Ukrainian border, where millions of Ukrainians could feel safe and protected, and where they could receive the most necessary help for them at the moment. This help did not stop, and we cannot use past tense in regard to it, because every day a lot of people from 1.5 to 2,000 people come to Peremyśl train station. These are Ukrainian refugees who come with the trains, and countless people who cross the border by foot or with cars. So our organization, the Community of Ukrainians in Poland, which is also coordinating the work of Ukrainian House in Peremyśl, which maybe part of you have heard about. If not, I welcome you to read about us. We coordinate work of interpreters at the train station. From the beginning of full-scale invasion, from February 2022, we are coordinating work of more than 900 volunteers who are working at the border also, and well, other places where Ukrainians were coming to, and at the train station as well. In the collaboration with the state authorities, we undertook the responsibility of interpreting information about the services provided by state services, by authorities. This problem is so most of people in Ukraine know Russian or Ukrainian, but in Poland there is quite a problem because not everybody knows these languages. So we decided to help people in this regard. So the work of these hundreds of these people is really valuable and helps a lot. So previous speakers were talking about hotlines. In our case, the house of a Ukrainian house, where every day we are receiving and welcoming Ukrainians, refugees who have just come, or those who have spent some time here in Poland, or people who came from Western countries because they decided that in Poland they can feel more comfortable. So as organization, we are conducting a consultational center where we provide services. We help people to get jobs, also legal consultations. So the legal services here are different from the ones that you provide in Ukraine. So the most important question here is the right for residents in Poland, and people who come to Poland and want to stay here for a longer period of time. They are worried a lot if they are in Poland according to Polish legislation, if they're legal in Poland. So a lot of people who cross the border in the beginning of the war have this question a lot. And also, well, it is connected with the fact that in the beginning of the war, everybody with any kind of document that identifies them could cross the border. For example, it could be an internal passport of Ukraine, which officially usually doesn't give permission to cross the border. So that's why a lot of people had questions in regard to their legal status. So it's quite difficult to find out when this person came exactly in this case. And the State Border Service usually doesn't have information, like exact information on that. So then we cannot say for sure that this person crossed the border or even tell the date. So yes, also we help Ukrainian refugees to obtain jobs because so a lot of Ukrainians who already lived in Poland before try to provide jobs for people who came now to refugees because they want to help them. But sometimes when we are preparing the documents and look at their legal status in Poland, we have some doubts about their legal status, and then we need to accompany these people and apply to special governmental services which can provide the certain identification that this person is living in Poland, is registered in Poland, etc. So the next question that we get a lot is possibility to come back to Ukraine and return back to Poland. So a lot of Ukrainian refugees who left Ukraine thought that they were going to Poland for 3 weeks. They just collected the most necessary things or didn't take anything at all. A lot of them have left their parents, their relatives in Ukraine. They were helping them remotely every day, but they, due to certain circumstances, they had to take their children and go abroad. So at some point they decided to periodically come back to Ukraine or to come back to Ukraine for good. Even even some of them who are planning to go to Ukraine, they want to come back to Poland to get some break from the sound of sirens and the constant shellings, to get warm and to sleep calm. So there is always electricity in Poland. There are no problems with that. But in this case, they have questions: how long can they be in Ukraine? In order not to lose the temporary protection status in Poland and all the rights which they had obtained when they came there the first time. So the state system, which is responsible for provision of identificational number, is not always working correctly. This is the number that every Ukrainian citizen and other people who live in Poland for a longer period have, and they can use state services, for example, medical services with this identification number. For example, for refugees from Ukraine, medical aid is free in Poland, but only if you have this special number. So if people come to Ukraine and live there for more than 30 days, this number is basically taken away from them. And there is often this problem in the system that the system automatically takes the status away before the 30 days span. For example, a person was in Ukraine for 20 days, tries to comes back and finds out at the border that they are not considered a refugee anymore and they cannot use the free services, for example. So when people face these kind of challenges, they come to us and ask us to help them to restore the status, for example. And we are also helping to improve the system on the state level. We often get questions about social aid, which is connected with legal status. For example, uh, what is my status? What is written in my documents? Or what documents do I have to provide to receive social aid? Very often people come to us with such questions because they don't understand what the state officials are telling them in the local administration or other social structures. And yeah, there are language barriers. So we are providing an assistant to this person, and they can go to the local administration with the assistant who helps with the interpretation and find out all the details. It's quite a difficult situation, and it's not only about material situation, but or financial situation, but also people are often forgetting to take the documents, for example, or it turns out that the documents have expired, or it turns out that there's no they need the translation of certain document because the state official doesn't understand what is written there. So we help and kind of help. Sometimes we provide translation of documents. Sometimes we have the opportunity to fund such expenses. People often ask how it is possible to legalize their stay in another way. Um, so, for example, person doesn't want to be a refugee officially anymore and wants to legalize their stay based on, for example, uh, residence permit. And we also conduct different accompaniment or consultations for such people. And we help to receive residence permit in Poland because it is a more long-term document than the status of refugee. We do not only help to Ukrainian refugees, but also to Polish people who want to help Ukrainian refugees or those who have any relation to Ukrainian refugees. A lot of Polish entrepreneurs ask how to employ a citizen of Ukraine or how to employ a person from Ukraine with a status of refugee. For in this case, we need completely different documents. So we also try to facilitate and to improve the situation of these people and to facilitate such a process. So basically, we help both to the employers who can potentially give jobs to Ukrainians, and if we help them to understand the system, then they will uh, be more open to employing Ukrainians. And thanks to that, we will help Ukrainians become more independent and financially strong. Uh, there are a lot of pleasant, nice moments in our work. For example, when women give birth, Ukrainian refugees, and when we are getting requests to help to register this baby. And yeah, unfortunately, we also are sometimes facing situations when people are dying and also this needs to be registered. The state services are overloaded with work, and a lot of them have also they require help from local organizations because they're also busy with helping Ukrainian states, the army, and other ways. So sometimes they cannot find time and resource to help individual people. So our organization works as a facilitator, and we also accompany people in the toughest moments in their life. For example, when a loved one dies. So we help to transport the body or ashes to Ukraine, or if the family wishes to organize funeral in Poland, and everything related to this. The next thing is the loss of documents. A lot of people, first of all, at the train station, after crossing of the border, of the official border, and so at the train station, there is passport control, and a lot of people are losing their passport after this control. And when they have a lot of luggage, a lot of things, children, pets, a lot of people can just lose their passport. So yeah, we also are getting these kind of requests. And also sometimes people come with somebody's passports and say, we have found it, we need to find the person whom it belongs to. So we help in these cases. I will check if I have forgotten anything. Okay, so the problem in Poland with the provision of legal aid is quite big. We lack lawyers who know Ukrainian language, specialists in Polish legislation, but those who are Ukrainian speaking. So it is very important. The work of translators, interpreters is very important in this regard. They can unite these two groups, the refugees and lawyers, in order to provide mutual understanding for them. So the preventional activities, prevention for human trafficking, our organization was the only one who was conducting such activity. We did not agree to unite to connect between each other private drivers who provided services of transportation from Peremyshl to any other location in Europe and refugees. So we refused to provide such contacts between each other unless we could verify that this person is safe. We did not provide any service or communication like this. We have a structure that is conducting such kind of transportation services, and we engage the people who are connected with the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church structure, which is represented around Poland. And we were working on provision of contacts. For example, when we had a group of people who wanted to go to another city or to the refugee camp, and if we didn't know these people, we asked, we called to this city and found volunteers who could go to this place and check if and verify that it's a real place, a real existing organization, for example, that helps Ukrainians, and to check that our beneficiaries will be safe upon arrival there. So our standard is to provide, is to help people and not to do any harm. later on, yes, basically our standards correspond to the standards of international humanitarian organizations, and everything, all the rules that we developed by ourselves actually turned out that they correspond to the rules and the guidelines of the international humanitarian organization. And before the full-scale invasion, we were not a humanitarian organization. We didn't plan to do that, and we didn't want to do that. But we decided to help Ukrainians in any way we can until it will be necessary. And our organization, yes, we provide a lot of help to Ukrainian refugees, and answering the question of Valeria, we will do it until we can and until we see the demand. Mikhailo, thank you a lot for representing the experience of your organization. And while your presentation, I personally have dived in the aspect of living abroad and the lives of people who were forced to leave to other countries. And these people are in a very difficult situation when they have no certainty in what is happening in their country, in Ukraine, but then they come to another country and they also don't know what to do, how to get help. And it's very important that there are people on their way who can meet them, help them, and orient together with them in the new environment. And when we were talking about the births and deaths, it's incredible, and how the lifespan of how in this year we could cover so many aspects of health. And I'm very happy that you undertook this line of legal work and connecting Polish and Ukrainian cultures, and how lives of people will become interconnected and transformed into different cooperation. So thank you a lot for your experience. I welcome you to ask questions in the chat, and I want to move over to our next speaker. So Mikhailo was telling us about the thing that we need to connect people with lawyers who help and facilitate this communication. So our next speaker, Olena, is a member of organization Open Bulgaria. And we will ask Olena to speak a little bit about Bulgarian context of receiving Ukrainian refugees. Bulgaria has different background of interaction both with Ukraine and Russian, and maybe it had some, let's say, left some imprints on your work. Hi everyone, thank you organizers for inviting me and for the possibility to hear other colleagues' experience and representatives of other helping professions in this difficult situation. I'm a lawyer, a mediator. I am originally from Chernivtsi, but currently I live in Bulgaria. It's very sunny here. I have a presentation. Share it.
Право трансляції є.
Дякую. І я, мабуть, так само, як
And as millions of other Ukrainians, I ended up abroad, and I had no clue what I could do here as a lawyer. I felt quite lost, and I couldn't orient in what I could do and how I could be useful for Ukrainians. But having passed the first stage of my reaction to stress, I went over to active actions, and I started looking for possibilities to help. I received information that international organizations opening a call for position of the lawyer and crisis center, which helps refugees.
Зараз, секундочку, знову у нас якась проблема з
Для цього потрібно було подати, ці міжнародні організації цікавило саме
This international organization was interested in candidates who are practicing attorneys from Ukraine and who would know Ukrainian and also Russian, who would have all the documents proving the experience of work. And taking into account that I'm also a mediator, I could also engage this experience in my work. So currently, I'm working in the crisis center in Burgas, which covers the very popular resorts as Neseber, Pomorje, Sozopol, Burgas. So this whole region. This is the geography of this crisis center. So the collaboration of international organizations such as UNICEF, Red Cross, Bulgarian Helsinki Committee, we organized a hub all around the country. It's called Blue Dot. They are in Sofia, Varna, Rusa, Burgas, and Dobrich. And the concept is to unite different spectrums of services for Ukrainians, provision of social help, legal help, psychological, financial. It's also some help for parents with children. And also provision of legal aid for refugees from Ukraine. Not all of these centers have legal professionals, but in Sofia, Varna, and Burgas. So first, having come to Bulgaria, I have faced the first challenges. I have my background. I thought that it would be more or less like in Ukraine, but a lawyer who works in a crisis center is not a lawyer for Bulgarians. And I cannot be a lawyer. I cannot be an attorney. I can only provide general consultations in legal issues, and I cannot develop any procedural documents. So first challenges which I face is language barrier. I do not know Bulgarian very well. I'm only studying it. So I faced challenges in communication between Bulgarian state services and Ukrainian refugees, and it's connected with verbal communication. Now we also have a new international team, because to this position that I was talking about, they invited Ukrainians and Bulgarians who didn't know Ukrainian or Russian, and also volunteers who are citizens of Russia, but who live in Ukraine and who came to the side of Ukraine. And personally, for me, it was a big trigger when I heard this language. And I could see that our clients also had hard times when they heard that they receive help with Russian citizenship, who are obviously from Russia. Also, there was a challenge in different mentality. In Ukraine, lawyers and attorneys are used to certain tempo and scope of issues which we have to work on when the client is applying to us. It's quite a broad spectrum, and for me it was difficult to switch that in Bulgaria. In the European country, they make everything slowly. It's very difficult for them to keep up with our tempo, with our number of questions, different questions. So for me, it was a big stress the first time, but I understood that I cannot change it. I can only accept it. They have different tempos, but I am doing what I can in the framework of my competence. Also a big challenge in the work of the crisis center. It's a big number of clients. Personally, I was receiving requests from 15, 20 people every day. And it's quite a big load, physically and emotionally. Our clients come in very difficult psychological conditions. They come with their difficult stories. There are people who for whom this war is, as they say, it is the second one, because, for example, we have people who were IDPs in 2014 who moved to Mariupol, for example, and now they had to leave the second time to Bulgaria. So that's why we have so many people and requests, and it influences me as a crisis center lawyer, and it led to the burnout that I had to deal with. And the support groups of mediators were helping me a lot in that, and helped me see how I can help myself and to receive the support. So what I'm doing here, a lawyer in a crisis center is not an attorney. I don't have a right to develop complaints and some applications to state bodies. I do not have competence for this. For this, we have supervisors, attorneys of the Bulgarian Helsinki Committee, which I have communication with. I have a chat and hotline, and I can reorient clients in order to provide legal help from Bulgarian state services, from local services, etc. And also, being a lawyer of crisis center, I was doing a lot of explanatory work and educational work. So together with my colleague who is consulting in social issues, we started coming to these dormitories, into these hotels where in our region there are Ukrainian refugees. And every time, so in order not to repeat ourselves, we just came physically to our beneficiaries and helped them individually with the issues they had. In the framework of a crisis center, I consult via phone and offline. People text me and call me. As a lawyer, I need to prepare reports about number of requests and about the questions which they apply to us with. So about the questions which Ukrainians are referring to us with mostly, there's a list of questions which are matching, but some don't. But there's also a specific connected to the thing that Ukrainians ask about their stay in Bulgaria. They basically the crisis center in Bulgaria does not provide legal consultations about the legislation of Ukraine. It is dealing with legal matters in Bulgaria. So these questions that people come with, I try to systematize them, and they come in layers. So what was in the beginning did not go anywhere, but it was added. It was combined with other questions that people start to have now. So first of all, as Mikhailo said, also people who just came to Bulgaria, they are interested how they can legalize their stay here. So do they need to receive temporary protection or humanitarian status or refugee status? What is the difference and what are the consequences? Also, they want to know how to get free accommodation in Bulgaria. These are people with children, seniors, people with disabilities who don't have means to provide their own accommodation. So there was work in the local state services where they were choosing and assigning people to hotels and to local sanatoriums to live for free, and regulating also who would get what kind of help. And the red line of all consultations is what material or financial aid is possible to receive in Bulgaria for Ukrainians. Unfortunately, it's quite difficult here with monthly payments, as we can hear, for example, in Romania, in Germany, in Bulgaria, there's no such thing. It's a one-time payment provided by government of Bulgaria in social aid organs or by international organizations like UN, Red Cross, etc. But this aid is only provided to certain vulnerable groups of people, which they choose for themselves. Maybe some organizations help to people with children, or to seniors, or to people who suffered from violence, or to people with disabilities. Also people with acute health conditions. So then people get a lot of questions and complaints and about why if they don't belong to this vulnerable category, where can they apply for help? Now that we have this period when people can get vouchers for help with for children from 7 to 14 years old, and then mothers are asking like, what if the child is under 7, don't they want to eat? So yeah, so there are a lot of complaints, and a lot of people find it very sensitive, and I cannot help all Ukrainians, unfortunately, but in this case, I'm saying that I'm very sorry that it's this way, but I don't make this decision. So yes, there are people who cannot get the help they need, unfortunately. So there was a block of initial questions that arise when people just come to Bulgaria. But after initial adaptation, when they have somewhere to live, something to eat, then they have questions of different level. How to get employed in Bulgaria, how to open business, how to pay taxes, what opportunities are there for opening business. Our Ukrainians sometimes buy real estate, and they are interested how to legalize this property here. Also, a question of medical insurances, because medical insuring is paid here, and Bulgaria provided 3 months for receiving temporary protection. When for these 3 months the person doesn't have to pay for medical insurance, but after this they have to. So there's a question for people who don't fall under certain category and cannot get their medical insurance covered. So how they should make a contract with a doctor, how this whole process is organized. Our crisis center was created on 1st of June 2022, and these questions were more in summer, and when it was coming to autumn, when it became clear that that a lot of people are staying here for a longer time, there was a question how to register children for school, how to choose school, or maybe the government chooses instead of me. So a lot of questions also come from people with disabilities. If the status of disability from Ukraine is recognized in Bulgaria, and if it's not, how to obtain it and to receive some social aid. As Mikhailo said today, there are also issues when Ukrainians want to go to Ukraine from Bulgaria for a short time, for example, in order to take their clothes, for example, winter clothes when it was coming to winter, or maybe to go to a funeral to their loved ones. So there are many reasons why a person wants to go temporarily to Ukraine. And with the latest changes in the residence program in Bulgaria, we found out that the situation is not very good. It began in 1st of November 2022, which says that if the Ukrainian refugee lives in the hotel for free in Bulgaria, if they exit Bulgaria even for 1 hour, it is considered that this person is losing the right to living in this free property, and when they come back, they have to undergo a certain refugee camp, and only after this person can be placed again in a free property if it would be available. So it is a very acute question for those who want to visit Ukraine for a short period of time and then later come back to Bulgaria. These questions do not arise within the group of Ukrainians who rent and pay for accommodation from their own money. So what questions are relevant now? As European Commission has expanded the temporary protection status, now there is a question of how to prolong the documents which prove the status. As I know, in Poland, it's a kind of stamp that is put in the travel passport, but in Bulgaria, it's a separate document. It's a registrational card with an expiry period. And for our Ukrainians, there is a question where to go to prolong it, what documents we need to prolong it. And if I want to prolong the status, for example, if the situation is changing while in Bulgaria, and the person gets new reasons to stay in Bulgaria, for example, marrying a citizen of Bulgaria, or enrolling in the university in Bulgaria, or getting pension in Bulgaria. Unfortunately, today, in Bulgaria, it is impossible to change the status of temporary protection to any other status. Unfortunately, there is no mechanism for changing legal status in Bulgaria. And for people who decided to stay here in this country and to stay forever, it should be a little bit different, because the status of temporary protection is not counted in a term necessary to receive the permanent residence permit. So it doesn't make much sense, because you live here in this country, but you cannot legalize yourself and obtain any other status after, unfortunately. Yes, the status for Ukrainians is specific and quite limited. And you cannot use this term in order to obtain a permanent residence permit, as many of Ukrainians do when they apply to us. From the questions that were coming from other speakers, for example, about servicemen, we don't get such requests. Unfortunately, we didn't have the request about sexual abuse, but we had requests regarding physical violence, and it was reflected in different physical abuse forms from the side of local population. It was also issue of stolen property. It was a weird tendency when cars with Ukrainian number plates started to disappear. When only in the apartments rented by Ukrainians became robbed. So unfortunately, there was such an unfortunate tendency. As for the collaboration, taking into account that crisis center is conducted by collaborative efforts of different organizations, it is anyway a collaboration. But in the future, in order to be more efficient in providing legal aid for Ukrainians in Bulgaria, I'm working with our embassy, with Ukrainian embassy in Sofia. I text them, I call them when they have any questions that are related with the printing of passports and giving some Ukrainian documents, or if somebody is looking for Ukrainian relatives who are supposed to be here in Bulgaria. Also, our crisis center is working with local authorities, because the question of accommodation of Ukrainians in hotels and dormitories is conducted by local authorities. And also we work with other international organizations and non-governmental organizations. Their representatives and volunteers come to us and provide different kinds of help, and it's very pleasant to see. And we also, from our side, help in whatever we need. We provide a broad spectrum of help, and for this we need to unite with other initiatives. And also I was speaking a lot about the emotional load and psychological load for the workers, on the workers of crisis center. So in order to help ourselves and those who apply to me, as a mediator and co-founder of Open Bulgaria, in collaboration with our Ukrainian psychologists whom I known before, and who came to Burgas as well, whom I got to know within our work. We organized the support groups for Ukrainians in Bulgaria. We have our Telegram channel. We have Viber group where psychologists are providing different practices, different life hacks, how to overcome such difficult psychological state that people are experiencing, how to inspire, how to renew resources. And in the framework of such support groups, we were providing help to children, to parents, to together families, and to teenagers. This is what we did together. For example, there's some art therapy. We did that at our expense. Nobody is funding this activity, unfortunately, yet. We are open to donor funding. And if there are any representatives of donor organizations, we would be open to collaborating with you, because there is a big demand for psychological and emotional support to our Ukrainians. I realized that I'm not just a simple lawyer. I'm a social worker as well. I'm a person to whom people, Ukrainians, come when they need support and empathy. And you cannot imagine what kind of spark they get in their eyes, and when they hear their own language, Ukrainian language, and then we just communicate not about legal questions, but any kind of topic. And I understand that for them it is also support when we just can speak about them, about the situation in Ukraine. So this kind of work is necessary. And answering your question about how long it will last, I would say that as my managers say, regardless of the end of war in Ukraine, and it will end, there will be Ukrainians who will need help for some time afterwards. So as I understand, this collaboration of international organizations is not planning to finish the work of crisis centers, even if we know that the victory happens tomorrow. So me personally, I already orient Ukraine, I look at Ukraine, I want to come back, and I'm waiting for it. Thank you all for your attention, and I would be happy to answer your questions. Thank you very much for your presentation. Of course, every country and people who are abroad now will have different experience. And of course, all of us, we will need to, now and later, we will need to look for opportunities to collaborate, to help each other overcome all this, and to continue our work later. Our event is the first of such format within this project. So every speech and every presentation is very important for us. But we are also transforming the program a little bit in the way, and now we have translation. The translator was working for a long time, that's me here. And now we will make a little break. So I will ask the speakers and the last third part to move it a little bit for like 10 minutes. I just invite you to come back in 10 minutes again. Dear participants, I hope that everybody could have a little rest and come back to our conversation. We have lots of questions which we need to discuss. So yeah, sometimes we have changes in our program. So I'm sorry for these changes, but I hope that everybody is getting valuable knowledge and experience, and we can use it in our work. So today we will follow the general frame of working until 1:30, and our next block will be connected to intersectional cooperation and cooperation of different specialists of helping professions, because in our work we got convinced how important it is to work with psychotherapists, psychologists, and other specialists of this field. And I will invite our colleague Irina Raske, who is a psychoanalyst, supervisor, and training analytic, head of the section of psychoanalytic psychotherapy of couples and families, and delegate of Association of Psychologists and Psychotherapists of Ukraine, and the European Federation of Psychotherapists and Psychologists. I invite Irina to make the first introductional part about cooperation of specialists of different professions. And of course, we are a little bit limited in time, so I will ask our next speakers to conduct your speeches in a framework of 7 minutes, so that we would have time to also ask questions and discuss what we have heard today. Thank you, Valeria. Thank you, colleagues, for inviting me. I have a big honor to be a part of the team of the organizers of this event, and other work. So everything that is happening here is very important for me. And when the previous speakers were giving presentations, I was listening very carefully. Of course, I'm not very surprised, let's say, about what is happening, because we are in the epicenter of what is happening. But I'm truly impressed. I'm impressed by the scope of your work and the efforts you're putting in it. Marta was speaking about the strategic potential of this event and everything what we're doing, and I was thinking to myself, Marta was talking about strategic potential of her organization, and I was thinking about the strategic potential of this event and everything what we are doing as specialists. And in my opinion, in my psychotherapist's opinion, is the prevention of social trauma. What we are doing is really helping the processes which will happen after the war. And speaking about our work, we were concentrating on the psychological support in the 3 directions. Is the direct services to people who need psychological aid, and second is interaction with within the team, support of psychologists, so support of those who support, supervision work, and the third is work with lawyers and those people who are part of this aid profession, and but have anyway their own specifics. At this time, I have been living in Germany for a long time, and I consider myself a part of Ukrainian diaspora and representative of Ukrainian culture in Germany. And Valeria said that I work in several international organizations, and the international community has been helping us from the first hours of war. On 26th of February, we conducted the first supervision group, and from the first days of war, we had very clear and very important contacts with Vivian Hart, and I'm very happy that she's with us right now as well. I really want to thank her with my whole heart, and to the whole international community who supported us. As for direct communication with lawyers, the specific is in the fact that the aid professions are on the edge of certain challenges, not depending on the extreme circumstances. People need clear informational legal aid, but taken into account emotional conditions. And it is a kind of contradiction which poses additional pressure on the specialists. Our collaborations began way before the war with human rights vector on the border between psychological and legal aid. We began this in times of COVID-19. We were providing help to lawyers, providing understanding and psychological processes which are happening and with these specialists. And it continued after the full-scale war, because the war is a traumatizing event, and trauma is posing its own challenges. One of the main ones, you will hear more detailed about this tomorrow. I really invite you to join our tomorrow event as well, with the psychologists, the psychotherapists, the psychiatrists, so with the people of this profession in a broad sense. And today we are speaking more generally about it, but tomorrow it will be more in detail. So trauma is causing the break in time. So a lot of people feel that the time is not going as it used to be, that they need more time to realize something, to analyze something. And these time gaps, these time breaks, when yesterday you had certain plans, but today they all have changed because of this traumatizing event. When we are almost on the verge of anniversary of this event, we were facing the challenge of not knowing what will happen tomorrow, and these breakages happen in a cognitive continues in cognitive dimension. When a person faces the changes in understanding how the world works and how everything works around them. And then it happens in regard to certain life circumstances, to the roles in life. This is also changing. And also in social aspect, when people end up in different circumstances and not connected to disconnecting from their families, from their regular, let's say, surroundings, when they end up abroad, and also in a personal dimension. A lot of people face the challenge that they have a normal reaction to not normal circumstances, that people feel very differently from how they felt before. They start questioning who they are, and a lot of vulnerable categories of people had to change their identities basically, and to change how they behave in life. For example, when they were sitting in the car and bringing their children somewhere, and they haven't done that before. Good news is that um, that uh, that when you reconnect one of these aspects, others are also coming along and basically are restoring. So now all of us, by uniting our resources and by providing help in our dimensions, we work in also prevention of social trauma. And in cognitive dimension, this is being restored by providing clear information. For example, information in legal aspects, because in this way we are restoring people's understanding of how the world works again. And they get clear instructions on how they should act in these new circumstances. We heard from Olena and Mikhailo about people uniting professions. For example, a person who usually would have been a lawyer has to undertake the responsibility and role of psychological support. So people come to us, the clients come to us in changed, transformed conditions. And it is quite a pressure on the specialist who is working with them. But by restoring connections in one dimension, others are also adding up. A person will feel more confident, the person will feel more secure, and will be able to apply to other specialists for other kind of help. A person who restored social connections will better understand what is happening around her. And this was very important for us to provide supervisional support in interaction between sectors and for each individual specialist. Moreover, we have contacts with people who are in the front line. And if in Germany, if families are coming to Germany to be in physical safety, it doesn't necessarily mean that their psychological safety and security is ensured, because they are worried for their loved ones who stayed in Ukraine, who are fighting for Ukraine, who are in the front line. So this work with trauma and this help should be complex. And we are receiving help from our foreign colleagues, for example, from Vivian, as I said, and tomorrow you will hear more about Joshua and other colleagues who we are working with. And this complex aid is turning out to be the most efficient in the end. From February till August, or maybe even until autumn, the most important help was connected to evacuation, when we were helping to organize evacuation of our specialists and all other people. In general, anyone who would need this kind of help. And being in Germany, my personal contribution was that I was a coordinator between different organizations, which are not connected only with state bodies. These were also religious organizations. For example, I was working with some Catholic and with businessmen who united in non-governmental organizations. So the businessmen created a community which is helping people in different hotspots of the world. And they are helping also Odessa, because the city where they are established is the city partner of Odessa. And so they organized, for example, and bought the buses, which were used for evacuation of the people from Ukraine, and in particular people with disabilities. Also, the experience of working with people with disabilities showed that it is quite paradoxical phenomenon, but development in trauma, when people receiving new experience have opportunities to develop new interactions and connections. And what is happening in our conference right now is about what will be happening after the war. It is not only about what is the developments that are happening during the war, but also about how we can use our experience and combine it and use it after the war. It's very important that colleagues from different directions are represented today. And if we have any challenges in helping, for example, people who suffered sexual abuse, we can refer to the organization which is specializing in that. Or we can get clients from other organizations who want to know more about the legislation in Germany or something like this. And for example, me as a psychologist, I had to learn certain information and also provide informational aid and refer people to specialists which I have the contacts of. And this coordinating effort is crucial in my point of view. And more detailed about trauma, burnout, and everything what is happening with us during the war, I will tell you tomorrow. So I just want to draw your attention to the importance of this topic, and I want to invite you to come today and to listen about it, because it's very important to support each other, to help people who are helping. This is the first step which we need to do. The person who is burnout cannot provide qualitative help. So thank you a lot for inspiration which I have received today. I'm happy to have heard everything you said today, and I hope that it will motivate us to continue our work and integration of Ukraine in the international community. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for the help you're providing in the framework of our cooperation and for the organization of this event today. We have a lot of work ahead of us, and we have not so much time, but I see that Irina Fedorich is even on the road, but she still joined us, so I would like to invite her to speak. Irina is a lawyer, mediator, acting chairman of the board of Association of Family Mediators of Ukraine, and we would like to hear her experience. Thank you. Maybe I'll be shaking sometimes because I'm in the train right now. I'll try to be very brief. I'm very happy that I'm presenting after Irina because she spoke about very important things. And today I would like to share very briefly my experience as chairman of the association and association of family mediators is a professional community, policy mediation. And this year we realized that one of the most important aspects is collaborating with other specialists. It was news for us, but this year it became necessary, absolutely necessary. The motto of our organization is support, collaboration, and professionalism. So we are implementing these principles in our work and collaboration with other partners. And we are implementing them also in our system of free legal aid. We work also with social services, with subjects which provide mediation services. We started our work before the war, and I will start from this. Our system of free legal aid has not stopped working even for a day after the war. So we don't only inform clients about their right for mediation, but also actively we're initiating and encouraging the specialists in mediation to the cases that we received. So 42 people have signed contracts with local mediation centers in last year. And when other initiatives received applications for mediation services, they were also referring them to us. It's very important to mention that we have constant analytics and provision of services for access to mediation. For us now, it's very important to see the connection between social and legal aspects of conflict. So conflict is the zone of work of mediator, and the reason of this conflict, the social component, can be a decisive point in the resolution of conflict. And if we have other knowledge about the circumstances of our conflict, it can be transformed also, the way of resolving the conflict. So for us, it was also important to facilitate cooperation between mediators and the clients. We were trying to establish more interconnections between better interconnections between professionals and clients. And we could see the efficiency of such approach of establishment of better connections. I will tell you a bit about our several projects. One of them was helping internally displaced persons. I know that Lilia also took part in such a project. So for us, it's also important to work back to back with psychologists. And it helps to understand better the specifics of requests for our help, to communicate better our possibilities and our technical possibilities with the client. So when the client comes to us, we understand that his or her question can have several components in it. So we need to realize clearly what is our responsibility in this, and what we can do and what we cannot do. And if we cannot do something, to refer the client to another initiative. Also, we have a project, family mediation at times of war. Around 50 mediators provide free of charge family mediation services in Ukraine and even abroad. It's very important for us because also in this project we provide support for mediators by international experts in learning and in capacity building. Also important thing that Irina already mentioned that we are also doing is supervisory help and work in groups, professional groups, because as Irina also mentioned, it's very difficult to provide help when you need it yourself and when you don't have enough resource for your work. So the professional interconnections and the cooperation is very important on different levels for understanding the client's requests better and for supporting each other as professionals. So probably the most important direction of our work is establishment of interaction ethics and guidelines and understanding of the responsibility of each professional. We're not only talking about mediators, but also psychologists, psychotherapists. And when we work in this field, we need to have clear guidelines and to understand the analytics of our work to improve it in the future. I realized today that I don't even know everybody who is involved in our kind of work, and it was very nice to meet Julia today. I will text you more about our collaboration. So thanks a lot to all speakers, and it was really nice being with you today. Thank you. It seems like today in the span of one event, we had at least like 3 different ones. So now we give the floor to Lilia again for going like conclusion. And this question of interaction and cooperation is so complex and so layered. I'm trying to figure out how to take not so much time for you because this is such an expensive topic. I prepared a presentation, but I think I can send it together with other materials to you. But now I will briefly speak about the principles of interaction and cooperation from my experience as an attorney and as a professional who cooperates with different other helping professionals and specialists. So now I would see it only in the dimension of cooperation between lawyer and psychologist, for example. But now after this meeting, I'm thinking also about collaboration with the interpreters, and it opens new perspectives to me. So it's very important to restore social connection for our clients. It's very important to form the understanding of resilient social connections. Building this interaction between different professionals, and we are based on security, the principle of security. Safety and security, not only physical but psychological, is crucial. And it's all about building bridges of trust. And this creates interdisciplinarity and multi-layered integrational approach to our work. And it also develops a platform for resilience. If we're talking about interaction, we can separate principles of help and no harm to client and help and no harm to ourselves. I've learned that from psychologists that we need to first take care about ourselves, and then when we have the necessary resource, provide help to our clients. I think now I will stop because I want to speak more and more, but I want to think and reflect on what was said by each speaker, because it is all very valuable and crucial. The work done is very valuable, and it's very important that today we have met, talked about it, shared our experience, and I hope that it will be a bridge for our further interaction. Thank you a lot. Thank you. You had some thoughts that I wrote down even, and we are trying to achieve this resilience and social connection. Yeah. But in reality, to create a wholesome space for ourselves in our different dimensions is very important. Thank you for this event. Now we have 7 minutes, and I would like to say to all the participants who are still with us to offer in order to keep the moments that we are all thinking about, to conduct 2 more polls, which we will save, and their results will be saved, and we will present them after our event. So, as I said, we conducted a questionnaire among the providers of psychological and legal aid before, and we asked these questions. We asked these questions before also, and maybe you heard this question already from the presentations of our speakers. The question is, what is the biggest challenge for your work right now? And we tried to look at the statistics of challenges for this event, for example, like power cutoffs or something like this. So every one of us has different challenges connected with the specifics of our target audiences, with our circumstances. And as we spoke today, we also need to expand our activity in relation to the increase of demand, and maybe that is the challenge for you. So basically the options are power cutoffs, power and internet cutoffs, engagement of clients, increase of demand, professional burnout, psycho-emotional condition of clients, getting resources for continuing work, legislative gaps, and lack of specific knowledge. And I know that it's not enough. 3.5 hours apparently is not enough to speak about every challenge we have, but I hope that we will have more space for these discussions in the future. So now almost everybody has voted, and we see that power cutoffs and internet cutoffs is quite a pressing issue. Psycho-emotional condition of clients is the second most pressing one. Yeah, so basically we all have different obstacles we are facing, and we will try to find out how we can overcome them together. I'm offering you another poll in order to draw some conclusions about what kind of help we need to continue our activity. So now we have a question: what help do you or your team need? It's engaging specialists, expanding partnerships, prevention of burnout, education, exchange of experience with colleagues, spreading information about your activity, technical capability and funding of professional activity.
Технічне забезпечення фінансування діяльності. Голосування триває.
So the poll is almost over.
Давайте спробуємо глянути.
Let's try to check the results. I hope everybody who wanted to voted. So we can see that the biggest help necessary is the expanding of partnerships, exchanging of experience, education, prevention of burnout. And the last question I would like to ask you today. Do you think it is necessary to conduct such events in the future? Yes or no? I hope everybody has voted, and we can see that 100% of participants think that such events are necessary. Thank you so much, and we will try to conduct more of them. I see comments in the chat. Thank you a lot. We see a lot of gratitude, a lot of proposals for cooperation. I'm very happy and thankful to all participants and speakers for such an interesting event, for the foreign experience. This information was very interesting, very useful for us. Thank you. Even people are exchanging emails. I'm very thankful to our participants from abroad. For example, Melinda was representing an organization from Hungary, who are helping people with disabilities who came to Hungary. So it was also very crucial cooperation. And if anybody wants to say anything, to say thank you or maybe offer something, please mention it in the chat, and let's be in touch. Let's continue our cooperation. A little announcement. Tomorrow we have the continuation of this event. I invite you to join. The link, the Zoom link, which you have received, is active for both days. So if you are interested in about psychological support, which we mentioned today, also is a very important direction of help, you can join us at 2:00 Kyiv time tomorrow. We will also speak about Ukrainian and foreign experience. You can see the announcements at our pages and social networks, and all the information about speakers and the topics is there. So it's exactly 1:30 Kyiv time. If somebody wants to stay with us for 5 more minutes and say something out loud, you are welcome. If not, then I think we will finish for today. So maybe while people are still thinking what to say, I'm very grateful to all the speakers who were with us today. It was an incredibly important experience for us. I want to thank you all participants who were with us for the whole time of the event. I see that you are doing amazing work, and I see that you are representing different organizations, public and non-governmental sector, educational institutions, and the work that you're doing is contribution in our joint future and in our collaboration that we can organize even right now at this event. I'm thankful to the people who joined organization of this event, to the translator, it's me, who translated our material today, which was sometimes fast and very hectic, but yes, everything worked out, thankfully. and the interpretation allowed us to broaden our target audience for this event. So thank you for this opportunity. I want to thank to Henry, who also commented in the chat that you can apply to him for technical support and digital security support. And in our event, we also made sure that Henry made it run so smoothly technically and organized all these technical moments. Thank you a lot. I think to Natalia, who you have seen was posting, publishing posts about our events, and she is leading our social media. I'm thanking to our Benjamin, our volunteer from Australia, who is living in Ukraine for 2 years because he loves Ukraine so much. Thank you for volunteering for our organization and many others, actually. And thank you for doing so much during the war. I thank you, Olena, who also supported the whole process of our hotline work. And it's one of the persons who inspired our activity. I hug everybody, and I'm very happy that we could make all this today, and I'm waiting for you at our event tomorrow, and we have a lot of work ahead of us. So let's move together to the victory.